January 16th, 1943. Brisbane, Australia. The air smells of diesel exhaust and tropical rain. USS Wahoo lies alongside the submarine tender Sperry, her hull still warm from 2 previous war patrols that accomplished almost nothing. The boat is a Gato-class fleet submarine. 312 feet of welded steel, 2 diesel engines, 4 torpedo tubes forward, 4 aft, and a pressure hull rated to 300 feet. She is designed to hunt Japanese shipping in the Pacific, but under her first 2 commanding officers, Wahoo has been timid, cautious, and largely ineffective. 2 patrols, 2 commanding officers who preferred safety over aggression, 0 significant kills. Today, that changes. Lieutenant Commander Dudley Morton climbs aboard as Wahoo's new commanding officer. He is 36 years old, stocky, with a face that looks like it was carved from Kentucky limestone. His nickname is Mush, short for Mushmouth, earned at the Naval Academy for his thick southern accent. But there is nothing soft about the way Morton approaches submarine warfare. He believes submarines should hunt aggressively, penetrate enemy harbors, fire torpedoes at point-blank range, and surface to finish crippled targets with deck guns. His philosophy is simple and brutal. Wahoo is expendable. The crew is expendable. The mission is to sink enemy ships, and if Wahoo goes down doing it, that is an acceptable trade. Morton's executive officer is Lieutenant Commander Richard Dick O'Kane, age 30, a thin, intense officer with a mind like a slide rule and nerves that do not break under pressure. O'Kane was aboard for the 2nd patrol under the previous captain and watched in frustration as opportunities were missed because the captain hesitated. When Morton took command, O'Kane expected another cautious skipper. Instead, Morton did something unprecedented. He told O'Kane, "You will man the periscope during attacks. I will command the boat." In every other submarine in the United States Navy, the captain operates the periscope during attacks because the periscope provides the only visual information about the target. The captain looks, estimates range and speed, calculates firing solutions, and gives orders. But Morton sees a problem with that system. When the captain is glued to the periscope, he cannot think strategically about the entire engagement. He cannot monitor sonar. He cannot listen to reports from different stations. He cannot assess whether to press the attack or withdraw. Morton's innovation is to split the roles. O'Kane becomes the eyes, feeding continuous updates about target bearing, speed, and range. Morton becomes the brain, synthesizing all information and making tactical decisions. It is a radical departure from doctrine, and it requires absolute trust between captain and executive officer. Morton and O'Kane have that trust. They have trained together, drilled together, and developed a communication shorthand where O'Kane can report. Target bearing 045, range 1500, angle on the bow starboard 30. And Morton instantly translates that into a firing solution without needing to see the target himself. The system works because both men are exceptionally competent and because Morton has enough confidence to delegate the most critical task to his subordinate. Wahoo's orders for her 3rd patrol are specific. Proceed north through Vitiaz Strait to Wewak, a Japanese supply base on the northern coast of New Guinea between Kaireru Island and Mushu Island. Reconnoiter the harbour. Photograph installations. Assess defences. Then patrol the surrounding waters and attack any shipping encountered. The orders do not say penetrate the harbour and sink everything inside, but Morton interprets them that way. He plans to take Wahoo into Wewak Harbor itself, a shallow, confined anchorage surrounded by enemy shore batteries and patrol boats, because that is where the targets will be. There is one significant problem. Wahoo has no charts of Wewak Harbor. Naval intelligence has not surveyed the area. The submarine tender cannot provide detailed hydrographic data. Morton needs to know water depth, navigational hazards, and the shape of the harbor entrance to avoid running Wahoo aground or into a reef. Without charts, penetrating an enemy harbor is suicidal. But motor machinists Mate Forrest Sterling, a member of Wahoo's crew, has a solution. While on liberty in Brisbane, he purchased a cheap school atlas, the kind used by Australian children studying geography. The atlas has a map of New Guinea. Wewak appears as a tiny indentation on the northern coast, with the harbour labelled in small print. Sterling brings the atlas to Morton and O'Kane. They examine the map. It is cartoonishly simple, showing only the general outline of the harbour with no depth soundings, no navigational marks, nothing that would allow safe navigation. Morton orders the map photographed and enlarged. The resulting image is grainy, distorted, and still lacking any useful detail. It is also the only chart they have. Morton makes the decision. Wahoo will use the school atlas as her navigation reference. They will proceed slowly, take depth soundings with the fathometer, and rely on visual observation through the periscope to avoid hazards. If they run aground, they run aground. But they are going in. Wahoo departs Brisbane on January 16th with the destroyer Patterson as escort. The crew knows this patrol will be different from the first two. Morton has conducted drills continuously, pushing the crew through rapid dive procedures, emergency surfacing, and battle stations gun until every man can reach his station and begin functioning in less than 30 seconds. He has also spoken to the crew in the mess hall, delivering a message that no previous captain has articulated so bluntly. We are expendable. This boat is expendable. Our mission is to sink Japanese shipping, and we will take every reasonable risk to accomplish that mission. Some of you may die. I may die. But we will put the enemy on the bottom. The crew's reaction to this speech is mixed. Some are terrified. Others are energized. All understand that Wahoo is now a different kind of submarine, one that will seek combat rather than avoid it. The submarine transits north through Vitiaz Strait, a narrow passage between New Britain and New Guinea. The waters are contested. Japanese patrol aircraft operate daily. Submarines transiting on the surface must maintain constant vigilance and dive immediately if aircraft are sighted. Morton keeps Wahoo on the surface as much as possible, running at maximum speed to reach the patrol area quickly. At night, he orders the deck gun manned for surface action. If they encounter a Japanese patrol boat or small freighter, Morton intends to sink it with gunfire rather than wasting a torpedo. On January 19th, 3 days into the patrol, Wahoo passes into her assigned operating area and begins the approach to Wewak. The plan is to arrive off the harbour entrance at dawn, submerge, and conduct periscope reconnaissance during daylight hours when visibility is best. Morton wants to see what is inside before committing to an attack. If the harbour is empty, they will patrol outside and wait for targets to arrive. If the harbour has ships at anchor, Morton will attack immediately. January 24th, 0630 hours. Wahoo is running on the surface west of Kiriru Island, approximately 12 miles from Wewak. Visibility is excellent. Clear tropical morning with light wind. The lookouts on the bridge scan continuously with binoculars, covering assigned sectors. At 0637, the port lookout reports smoke on the horizon bearing 320. Morton climbs to the bridge and studies the contact through his own binoculars. The smoke is black and heavy, consistent with a coal-burning ship or a vessel with inefficient engines. As Wahoo closes the range, the hull becomes visible. A destroyer, smaller than an American Fletcher class, but unmistakably a warship. Twin stacks, forward gun mount, torpedo tubes visible amidships. The destroyer is heading south at moderate speed, possibly on patrol. Morton makes a rapid tactical assessment. The destroyer is a legitimate target and worth a torpedo attack, but destroyers are difficult kills. They are fast, maneuverable, and equipped with depth charges. If the first torpedo misses, the destroyer will counterattack, and Wahoo will spend hours evading depth charges instead of continuing toward Wewak. Morton decides the destroyer is not worth the risk. He orders Wahoo to dive and let the destroyer pass. Wahoo submerges to 100 feet. The sound of the destroyer's screws is audible through the hull, a fast blade rate indicating high speed. The destroyer passes within 2,000 yards without detecting Wahoo. Morton brings the boat back to periscope depth and resumes the approach to Wewak. At 1200 hours, Wahoo is 3 miles offshore from Wewak Harbor. Through the periscope, O'Kane can see the harbor entrance, a narrow opening between 2 points of land, with surf breaking over a reef that extends across the southern side. Beyond the entrance, the harbor opens into a circular basin approximately 2 miles across. Smoke from multiple stacks is visible, rising from inside the harbor. Ships are present. Multiple ships. If you are enjoying this investigation into history's hidden conflicts, please verify your subscription to the channel Cold War Chronicles. We declassify the past to understand the present. Morton conducts a careful reconnaissance of the approaches. The water depth outside the harbor entrance is 200 feet, adequate for submerged operations. The harbor entrance itself appears to be approximately 500 yards wide, with a navigable channel down the center. No mines are visible, though that does not mean they are absent. Shore batteries are visible on both sides of the entrance, likely anti-aircraft guns that could be depressed to fire on surface vessels. Patrol boats are moving inside the harbor, their wakes visible as white lines against the blue water. Morton orders Wahoo to submerge to 150 feet and wait for darkness. Night attack will reduce the risk of being spotted by shore observers or patrol boats. At 1800 hours, as twilight fades, Wahoo returns to periscope depth and begins the approach to the harbor entrance. At 1857 hours, Wahoo crosses the outer reef. The fathometer shows depth decreasing rapidly, 150 feet, 120, 90, 70. Morton reduces speed to 3 knots to minimize propeller noise. The periscope is raised just high enough for O'Kane to see the harbor entrance directly ahead. The entrance is dark, except for a few navigation lights on the points. No searchlights are sweeping the water. The Japanese do not appear to be expecting a submarine penetration. Wahoo enters Wewak Harbor at 1920 hours on January 24, 1943. She is the first Allied submarine to deliberately penetrate a defended Japanese anchorage since the war began. The crew is at battle stations. Every man is silent, except for necessary reports. The control room smells of sweat, hydraulic fluid, and the faint metallic odor of electrical equipment running hot. Morton stands at the plotting table, monitoring Wahoo's position using dead reckoning and visual fixes from O'Kane's periscope observations. The boat is moving at 4 knots in water that is now only 60 feet deep, barely twice Wahoo's height. If Wahoo runs aground, she will be trapped. If a patrol boat detects her, depth charges will shatter the hull in water too shallow to evade. If shore batteries open fire, Wahoo cannot dive deep enough to escape. Morton knows all this and proceeds anyway because the targets are here. O'Kane reports from the periscope. Multiple contacts. I count 6. No, 7 vessels at anchor. Largest looks like a transport, maybe 5,000 tons. 2 freighters, medium size. 3 smaller craft, possibly tenders or patrol vessels. Destroyer moored on the north side of the harbor near the fuel depot. Morton absorbs this information and makes his decision. The transport is the primary target. Secondary targets are the freighters. The destroyer is too close to shore and too well protected by patrol boats for a safe attack. Wahoo will fire at the transport first, then engage the freighters if torpedoes remain. At 1947 hours, Wahoo maneuvers to firing position. The transport is at anchor 800 yards away, presenting a perfect broadside profile. No zigzagging, no movement. A stationary target. Morton orders. Make ready tubes 1, 2, 3, and 4. Set depth 6 feet. Spread 2 degrees. The fire control party inputs the data into the torpedo data computer, a mechanical analog computer that calculates firing solutions based on target bearing, range, speed, and course. The TDC generates a solution and feeds it continuously to the torpedo tubes. O'Kane provides updated bearing. Target bearing 092, range 800, angle on the bow starboard 90. Morton watches the TDC solution stabilize. The firing solution is good. He gives the order. Fire 1. Compressed air ejects the torpedo from tube 1. Wahoo shudders slightly as 2 tons of torpedo leaves the boat. The torpedo motor starts, propeller engages, and the weapon accelerates toward the target at 46 knots. Run time to impact, approximately 30 seconds. Fire 2. Another torpedo away. Fire 3. Fire 4. 4. Mark 14 torpedoes are running toward the transport, in a spread pattern designed to ensure at least one hit, even if the target maneuvers. Morton keeps Wahoo at periscope depth to observe results. O'Kane counts down. 20 seconds. 15. 10. The first explosion lights up the harbor like a photographic flash. The transport is hit amidships on the starboard side. 2 seconds later, the second torpedo strikes forward near the bow. The third torpedo misses astern. The fourth hits near the stern. 3 hits out of 4, a superb result. Through the periscope, O'Kane watches the transport's bow and stern both rising as the midship section floods and collapses. The ship is breaking apart. Flames erupt from the cargo holds. Secondary explosions suggest munitions or fuel aboard. The transport lists rapidly to starboard, rolls onto her beam ends, and begins to sink. But the harbor has erupted into chaos. Patrol boats are starting their engines. Searchlights snap on and begin sweeping the water. Shore batteries fire star shells that burst overhead, illuminating the harbor in harsh white light. The Japanese know a submarine is inside, and they are reacting with speed and competence. Morton orders, right full rudder, all ahead full, come to course 270. Wahoo turns toward the harbor entrance, accelerating as much as the shallow water permits. But before she can escape, O'Kane reports another contact directly ahead. Destroyer, coming out of the northern anchorage, speed increasing. She is heading directly toward us. The destroyer is the Harusame, a Hatsuharu-class vessel displacing 1,400 tons, armed with 4 5-inch guns and depth charge racks. She is getting underway from her mooring on the north side of Wewak Harbor. Black smoke pouring from her stacks as her boilers flash to full power. Her bow is pointed directly at Wahoo. Range is decreasing rapidly. 1,800 yards, 1,500, 1,200. The destroyer's captain has spotted Wahoo's periscope wake or detected her acoustically and is charging to ram or force the submarine deep where depth charges can finish her. Morton faces an impossible tactical problem. Wahoo has 4 torpedoes remaining, all in the after torpedo room. To fire them, Wahoo must turn stern toward the destroyer, which takes time and exposes the submarine's length to ramming. The forward torpedo tubes are empty. Reloading takes 20 minutes minimum, and Wahoo does not have 20 minutes. The destroyer will be on top of them in less than 3 minutes. There is one option, the down-the-throat shot. Fire a torpedo directly at an oncoming target, head-on, hoping to hit before the target reaches you. It is the most difficult shot in submarine warfare because the target profile is minimal, just the narrow bow instead of the full length of the ship. The margin for error is 0. If the torpedo misses left or right by even a few degrees, it passes harmlessly down the destroyer's side. If the torpedo runs too deep, it passes beneath the destroyer's keel. If it runs too shallow, it might strike the bow above the waterline and fail to detonate. And if the torpedo is a dud, as roughly 20% of American torpedoes are in 1943 due to defective magnetic exploders and contact pistols, Wahoo will be rammed and sunk. Morton does not hesitate. He orders, make tube 1 ready for firing. Set depth 6 feet. Target is head-on, range 1,000 yards and closing fast. O'Kane watches through the periscope as the destroyer closes. He can see the destroyer's bow wave, white water breaking around the stem. He can see gun crew running to man the forward 5-inch mount. The destroyer's captain intends to open fire the moment his guns bear. Range 800 yards. Morton, stand by tube 1. Range 600 yards. The destroyer is moving at 30 knots. Closing speed is combined. Wahoo at 4 knots, destroyer at 30, 34 knots total. The range is collapsing at approximately 1,000 yards per minute. Range, 400 yards. O'Kane provides continuous bearing updates. Bearing steady. Range 400. Angle on the bow 0. Morton waits. The longer he waits, the harder it is for the torpedo to miss, but the greater the chance that Wahoo will be rammed before the torpedo can hit. Every man in the control room is silent. The only sounds are the hum of the hydraulic system maintaining depth and O'Kane's quiet reports from the periscope. Range, 300 yards. Morton. Fire 1. The torpedo leaves tube 1. The Mark 14 accelerates to 46 knots and runs straight toward the destroyer on a collision course. Run time, approximately 12 seconds. O'Kane counts. Torpedo running, 10 seconds, 5 seconds. The explosion is visible through the periscope, a geyser of white water erupting at the destroyer's bow. The torpedo has hit forward of the bridge, detonating against the hull plating. The blast tears a hole in the destroyer's bow, flooding the forward compartments and slowing the ship immediately. But the destroyer does not sink. She is crippled, losing speed, turning to port as her captain tries to bring his stern around to drop depth charges. But Wahoo is already moving. Morton orders full speed and turns toward the harbour entrance. The destroyer cannot pursue effectively. Her forward compartments are flooded, her speed reduced to less than 10 knots. She will need hours of damage control work before she can resume operations. Wahoo clears the harbour entrance at 20:34 hours, exiting into deeper water where she can dive safely if patrol boats give chase. No pursuit develops. The Japanese inside Wewak Harbor are more concerned with fighting fires on the sinking transport and assisting the damaged destroyer than with hunting the submarine that caused the chaos. Morton orders Wahoo to the surface once she is 10 miles offshore. The crew secures from battle stations. The transport is confirmed sunk, later identified as a 4,000-ton auxiliary. The destroyer is damaged but not sunk. One torpedo remains in the afterroom, and no torpedoes remain forward until reload operations are complete. But Morton is not finished with this patrol. Wahoo proceeds northwest along the known convoy routes between Wewak and Palau, hunting for additional targets. On January 26th, 48 hours after the Wewak attack, lookouts sight smoke on the horizon at dawn. Morton orders battle stations and closes the contact. It is not one ship. It is a convoy. 2 large freighters, a troop transport, and an escort destroyer. Morton maneuvers Wahoo into position using a surface approach, remaining beyond visual detection range while tracking the convoy's course. By mid-morning, he has positioned Wahoo ahead of the convoy's projected track. He orders a dive and waits at periscope depth for the convoy to come to him. At 09:47 hours, the convoy closes to firing range. Morton selects the transport as his primary target, largest tonnage and likely carrying troops or critical cargo. O'Kane provides continuous updates as the transport closes to 1,200 yards. Morton fires a 3-torpedo spread. The second and third torpedoes hit, stopping the transport dead in the water. But before Morton can assess damage, the second freighter, designated Fukwai Maru, No. 2, turns toward Wahoo and increases speed. The freighter's captain has spotted the torpedo wakes and is charging the submarine, intending to ram. Morton faces another down-the-throat situation. He fires 2 torpedoes from the forward tubes at the oncoming freighter. The second torpedo hits amidships, but the freighter continues closing. Wahoo executes a hard left turn at full speed, barely avoiding collision. The freighter passes 75 yards to starboard, close enough that O'Kane can see crew on deck, preparing to fire rifles at the periscope. With the immediate threat past, Morton turns his attention to the remaining targets. The damaged transport is settling, but not yet sinking. The first freighter is attempting to flee. The destroyer escort is maneuvering to attack position, but is still 2,000 yards away. Wahoo has 4 torpedoes remaining, 2 forward, 2 aft. Morton attacks the fleeing freighter first, maneuvering to gain firing position. He fires 2 torpedoes. The second hits just aft of midships, breaking the freighter's back. She sinks in less than 2 minutes. Morton then turns toward the damaged transport and fires his final 2 torpedoes without spread. Both hit. The transport breaks apart and sinks, leaving debris and survivors in the water. Wahoo has expended all 24 torpedoes. The third patrol ends with return to Pearl Harbor on February 7, 1943. Morton's patrol report credits 9 ships sunk totaling over 20,000 tons. Post-war analysis reduces that to 3 confirmed sinkings, but the patrol establishes Morton's reputation as the most aggressive submarine commander in the Pacific Fleet. Admiral Charles Lockwood, Commander Submarine Force Pacific, personally greets Wahoo at the pier and tells Morton, "That was the most brilliantly conducted patrol of the war." Morton's response, "We are just getting started, sir." Wahoo's 4th patrol departs Pearl Harbor on February 23, 1943, with orders to penetrate the Yellow Sea, the shallow body of water between China and Korea that no American submarine has previously patrolled. Japanese shipping uses the Yellow Sea to move supplies from China to the Korean ports that feed the Japanese war machine. The area is considered too shallow and too dangerous for submarine operations. Depths average less than 200 feet. The water is turbid, reducing periscope visibility. Chinese fishing vessels clutter the area, making sonar contacts difficult to classify. And the Japanese assume no American submarine would risk operating in such confined waters, so they run convoys with minimal escort. Morton views these conditions as opportunity rather than risk. Shallow water means Japanese anti-submarine warfare assets will be complacent. Lack of previous American presence means surprise is complete. Minimal escort means convoys are vulnerable. He takes Wahoo into the Yellow Sea with the intention of remaining on station until all torpedoes are expended, regardless of how long that takes. March 19, 1943. Wahoo is operating east of Dairen in water 150 feet deep, barely enough to dive beneath a surface ship's keel. Radar contact at 0430 hours. 2 vessels in column, moving south at 8 knots. Morton conducts a surface approach in darkness, closing to visual range. The targets are a cargo ship and a freighter, both medium-sized, running without escort. Wahoo attacks from the surface using a tactic Morton has refined. Close to point-blank range, fire multiple torpedoes, then dive immediately if the target shoots back or if escorts appear. At 05 and 12 hours, from 800 yards, Morton fires 2 torpedoes at the lead ship. Both hit. The cargo ship, later identified as Zogan Maru, 1,400 tons, breaks apart and sinks in 4 minutes. Morton immediately swings Wahoo to engage the second ship, Kowa Maru, a freighter of 3,200 tons. He fires 2 more torpedoes. 1 hits, damaging but not sinking the freighter. The second is a dud, striking the hull but failing to detonate. The freighter is crippled but still afloat, listing and slowing. Morton could fire additional torpedoes to finish her, but he has a better option. He orders, "Surface, battle station's gun." Wahoo surfaces at dawn 400 yards from the damaged freighter. The 4-inch deck gun crew scrambles topside, loads, and begins firing. The gun crew consists of 6 men operating a World War I vintage deck gun with a maximum rate of fire of 8 rounds per minute. They are not trained naval gunners. They are submarine sailors who have drilled on the deck gun but never fired it in combat. Their targets in practice have been barrels and debris, not a ship shooting back. Kowa Maru returns fire with machine guns and a small deck gun. Bullets ricochet off Wahoo's conning tower and deck. The freighter's gun crew is more experienced than Wahoo's and scores near misses that send up geysers of water alongside the submarine. But Wahoo's crew adjusts fire rapidly, walking their shells across the water until they hit the freighter's waterline. The 4th shell penetrates the engine room. The 7th starts a fire. The 11th hits the bridge, silencing the freighter's gun. After 23 rounds, the freighter is burning and settling. Morton ceases fire and orders Wahoo to dive. The freighter sinks slowly over the next hour. Morton does not remain on the surface to watch. He takes Wahoo deeper into the Yellow Sea, hunting for additional targets. Over the next 3 weeks, Wahoo sinks 7 more ships and damages another. The patrol becomes a masterclass in aggressive submarine tactics. Morton attacks convoys during daylight, using periscope observations to target the largest ships. He attacks lone merchants at night from the surface, using radar to close undetected. He penetrates coastal waters within sight of land, where Japanese ships believe they are safe. And when torpedoes run low, he uses the deck gun, expending over 100 rounds of 4-inch ammunition against junks, sampans, and small freighters that are not worth a torpedo. On March 25th, Wahoo intercepts the freighter Hosen Maru south of Chinampo. Morton fires 3 torpedoes. The third hits amidships. Hosen Maru goes down by the bow in 4 minutes, so fast that few lifeboats can be launched. Approximately 33 survivors are left clinging to debris. On March 25th, radar detects 2 ships hugging the Korean coastline 12 miles off Benton Saki. Wahoo dives and maneuvers into attack position. Morton fires 2 torpedoes at the lead ship, followed immediately by a 4-torpedo spread at the escort. The first torpedo hits the lead ship, Tamon Maru No. 5, under the stack, breaking her back. She sinks in 6 minutes. 3 of the 4 torpedoes fired at the escort miss. The 4th hits, but is a dud. The escort flees. By early April, Wahoo has expended all 24 torpedoes and most of her deck gun ammunition. Morton sets course for Midway Atoll to refuel and rearm before returning to Pearl Harbor. The 4th Patrol Report, submitted April 6, 1943, credits 9 ships sunk, totaling over 30,000 tons. Post-war analysis confirms 7 ships sunk, the most successful single patrol by any American submarine to that date. Admiral Lockwood awards Morton his 2nd Navy Cross and tells him, "You are the one-boat wolf pack, keep it up." The crew of Wahoo adopts a new motto, painted informally on equipment throughout the boat: "Shoot the sons of bitches." It is not official Navy language, but it captures Morton's philosophy perfectly. Wahoo's 5th Patrol, May-June 1943, takes her to the Kuril Islands north of Japan. The mission is reconnaissance and interdiction, photograph Japanese installations, gather intelligence on fleet movements, and sink targets of opportunity. The Kurils are cold, fog-shrouded, and heavily patrolled. Wahoo operates in waters where a mistake means depth charges in sub-freezing seas with no prospect of rescue. On May 9th, radar detects 2 targets, a large tanker and a freighter in column, running without escort between ports. Morton attacks from the surface at night. He fires 3 torpedoes at the tanker and 3 at the freighter in rapid succession. 4 hit. Both ships sink. The action lasts less than 10 minutes from first contact to final sinking. The 5th Patrol yields 5 ships sunk totaling over 10,000 tons. Morton returns to Pearl Harbor on June 21, 1943, completing his 3rd consecutive highly successful patrol. In 6 months of command, he has sunk over 20 ships, totaling more than 60,000 tons. He is the most lethal submarine commander in the Pacific, and his reputation has reached the point where Japanese convoy commanders request additional destroyer escorts when operating in waters where Wahoo is believed to be patrolling. But there is a darker side to Morton's success that becomes visible during the 3rd and 4th patrols. On January 27th, during the convoy attack after leaving Wewak, one of the troop ships Wahoo sank was carrying several thousand Japanese soldiers. Hundreds survived the sinking and were in the water clinging to debris and lifeboats. Morton ordered Wahoo to surface. Over the next hour, Wahoo's deck gun crew and machine gunners fired on the survivors. Men who were no longer combatants, who were helpless in the water, who posed no threat to the submarine. The action was witnessed by every man in Wahoo's crew. Some participated. Some watched in silence. Some were horrified but followed orders. The official patrol report describes the incident in clinical terms. Survivors engaged with deck gun and machine gun fire to prevent rescue and deny personnel to enemy. But the language cannot obscure what occurred. Morton ordered his crew to massacre men in the water. There is no clear consensus on why Morton gave this order. Some argue it was tactical. Survivors would be rescued, return to units, and continue fighting. Others suggest it was psychological. Morton's hatred of the enemy had intensified to the point where he viewed all Japanese as legitimate targets, regardless of combatant status. Still others contend it was consistent with his philosophy that Wahoo's mission was to kill the enemy in the most efficient manner possible, and machine gunning survivors used less ammunition than torpedoing rescue ships. Whatever the motivation, the action violated customary laws of war and remains the most controversial aspect of Morton's command. When Admiral Lockwood read the patrol report, he did not reprimand Morton or remove him from command. The massacre was not investigated. Morton received the Navy Cross. The message to other submarine commanders was clear. Aggressive prosecution of the war, even beyond the boundaries of traditional military ethics, would be rewarded rather than punished. In July 1943, Wahoo enters Mare Island Naval Shipyard in California for refit and crew rest. Morton takes leave and returns to his family. He knows his next patrol will take Wahoo into the Sea of Japan, a body of water enclosed by Japan, Korea, and Russia, accessible only through narrow straits that the Japanese have mined and heavily patrol. No American submarine has successfully penetrated the Sea of Japan and returned. Morton believes Wahoo can do it. He tells O'Kane, "If we can get inside, the Japanese will never expect us. They think their home waters are safe. We will prove them wrong." August 8, 1943. Pearl Harbor. Wahoo departs for her 6th war patrol with orders to penetrate the Sea of Japan through Tsushima Strait, operate inside Japanese home waters for 3 weeks, then exit via La Perouse Strait between Hokkaido and Sakhalin Island. Morton has studied charts of both straits. Tsushima is heavily mined but navigable if a submarine transits on the surface at night, using radar to detect minefields. La Perouse is wider, less heavily defended, and offers better prospects for submerged exit. The mission is high risk, but offers unprecedented opportunity. Japanese merchant shipping inside the Sea of Japan runs with minimal escort because the Japanese assume no American submarine can penetrate the barriers. Wahoo successfully transits Tsushima Strait on the surface during darkness on August 14th, entering the Sea of Japan without detection. For the next 4 days, Morton hunts inside waters the Japanese consider safe. On August 15th, radar detects a southbound freighter off the west coast of Honshu. Morton attacks from the surface at night, firing 3 torpedoes. The first broaches, breaks the surface and runs erratically, missing the target. The second runs beneath the target without exploding. The third hits but is a dud, striking the freighter's hull with an audible clang but failing to detonate. The freighter escapes. Over the next 3 days, Morton attacks 9 ships. He fires 12 torpedoes. Every single torpedo either misses, broaches, runs too deep, or fails to explode on impact. Not one target is sunk. Not one target is damaged. Wahoo expends half her torpedo load with 0 results. The problem is the Mark 14 torpedo, the standard American submarine weapon throughout the first 2 years of the Pacific War. The Mark 14 suffers from 3 catastrophic design flaws that the Bureau of Ordnance has refused to acknowledge, despite mounting evidence from patrol reports. First, the torpedoes run approximately 10 feet deeper than their set depth due to improper testing methodology. Second, the magnetic influence exploder, designed to detonate beneath a ship's keel by sensing changes in the Earth's magnetic field, triggers prematurely or fails to trigger at all, depending on latitude and local magnetic conditions. Third, the contact exploder, the backup detonation mechanism, has a firing pin that bends on impact rather than triggering the detonator, causing the warhead to fail. Morton has been extraordinarily lucky during his first 5 patrols. Many of his torpedoes hit because he fires at point-blank range, where depth-setting errors are less critical. Many explode because the magnetic exploders happen to function correctly in the specific magnetic conditions where Wahoo operates. But inside the Sea of Japan, Morton's luck runs out. The combination of all three defects results in complete weapon failure. Every torpedo Morton fires malfunctions. On August 18th, Morton attacks a large transport carrying troops from Korea to Japan. He closes to 600 yards, point-blank range, and fires a 4-torpedo spread. The crew hears all 4 torpedoes hit the transport's hull. None explode. The transport continues on course, apparently unaware she has been attacked. One crew member later describes hearing the metallic clang of torpedoes striking steel, followed by silence, followed by Morton's voice over the intercom. "God damn it, they're duds! Every single one!" By August 19, Wahoo has expended 20 torpedoes with 0 sinkings. Morton has 4 torpedoes remaining and faces a decision: continue hunting with unreliable weapons or abort the mission. He chooses to exit the Sea of Japan via La Perouse Strait and return to Pearl Harbor. The 6th patrol is a complete failure. 0 ships sunk, 0 tons. The first unsuccessful patrol under Morton's command. When Wahoo arrives at Pearl Harbor on September 2nd, Morton submits a patrol report that is scathing in its criticism of the Mark 14 torpedo. He details every attack, every malfunction, every failure. He recommends immediate deactivation of the magnetic exploder and redesign of the contact exploder. Admiral Lockwood reads the report and finally accepts what submarine commanders have been reporting for 2 years. The Mark 14 is fundamentally defective. Within weeks, Lockwood orders all submarines to deactivate magnetic exploders and fire torpedoes using contact detonation only. Bureau of Ordnance begins investigating the contact exploder design. By October 1943, fixes are implemented, but for Wahoo, the fixes come too late. September 9th, 1943. Morton receives orders for Wahoo's 7th War Patrol, return to the Sea of Japan, operate for 3 weeks, exit via La Perouse Strait. It is the same mission as the 6th Patrol, but with corrected torpedoes. Morton accepts the orders without hesitation. Dick O'Kane, who has served as executive officer for all 6 of Morton's patrols, does not accompany Wahoo on the 7th patrol. O'Kane has been promoted and assigned command of his own boat, USS Tang. The loss of O'Kane means Morton loses the partner who made his unconventional command system work. The new executive officer is Lieutenant Vern Skionsby, competent but untested in Morton's aggressive tactics. Wahoo departs Midway on September 13th with 24 Mark 14 torpedoes modified with deactivated magnetic exploders and redesigned contact firing pins. She is scheduled to transit Tsushima Strait on September the 20th and operate inside the Sea of Japan until October 21st. Radio intelligence indicates heavy Japanese shipping between Hokkaido and the Asian mainland, exactly the targets Morton wants. For 3 weeks, Wahoo operates inside the Sea of Japan. She maintains radio silence to avoid detection direction finding. No patrol reports are transmitted. No contact messages are sent. The submarine force headquarters at Pearl Harbor monitors radio traffic but receives no communications from Wahoo. This is normal procedure for covert operations inside enemy-controlled waters. Silence means the mission is proceeding as planned. On October 5th, Japanese radio broadcasts report that a large passenger cargo ship, Konron Maru, has been sunk by submarine attack in the Sea of Japan, west of Hokkaido. 544 passengers and crew are killed. The broadcast does not name the attacking submarine, but no other American submarine is operating in the area. The attack is consistent with Wahoo's assigned patrol zone. This is the only confirmed sinking during the 7th patrol. October 11th, 1943. Wahoo is scheduled to exit the Sea of Japan via La Perouse Strait. The strait is approximately 40 miles wide, with water depth sufficient for submerged transit. Japanese patrol aircraft monitor the strait continuously, but detection of a submerged submarine is difficult without active sonar, which Japanese aircraft do not carry. Morton's plan is to transit submerged during daylight, clearing the strait before darkness when he can surface and run at maximum speed toward open ocean. At approximately 1100 hours local time, a Japanese patrol aircraft, a Nakajima E-8N2 floatplane, is conducting routine anti-submarine patrol over La Perouse Strait. The pilot spots a periscope wake on the surface, identifies it as a submarine proceeding northeast toward the Pacific, and radios the contact to shore headquarters. Within minutes, additional aircraft are dispatched. The submarine patrol vessel, Patrol Boat Number 15, a converted fishing trawler armed with depth charges, is ordered to the contact position at maximum speed. The aircraft arrives over the submarine's last known position at approximately 11:30 hours. The submarine has submerged completely, but the water is clear enough that the aircraft crew spots Wahoo's shadow beneath the surface at a depth of approximately 60 feet. The pilot drops two 132-pound depth charges set for shallow detonation. Both explode close enough to damage Wahoo's hull, but not close enough to sink her immediately. Patrol Boat Number 15 arrives on scene at 11:45 hours and begins systematic depth charge attack. The patrol boat carries 20 depth charges and drops them in a pattern designed to saturate the area where the submarine is believed to be hiding. The explosions force Wahoo deeper, but the strait's relatively shallow depth, less than 300 feet, means there is limited space for evasion. At approximately 12:05 hours, another Japanese aircraft, a Mitsubishi Ki-51 light bomber, arrives and conducts a bombing run. The bomber carries a single 551-pound bomb. The pilot releases at low altitude directly over Wahoo's estimated position. The bomb penetrates the water and explodes at depth. Japanese records indicate the explosion was immediately followed by a massive underwater detonation, suggesting the bomb hit Wahoo's pressure hull near the forward torpedo room, detonating stored torpedoes. Wahoo does not surface. No survivors are seen. No debris field appears. The Japanese continue depth charge attacks for another hour before concluding the submarine is destroyed. They report sinking one American submarine in La Perouse Strait on October 11, 1943. They do not recover any wreckage or bodies to confirm the kill. At Pearl Harbor, when Wahoo fails to arrive on schedule at Midway on October 21st, she is listed as overdue and presumed lost. On November 9th, the Navy Department officially declares USS Wahoo lost with all hands. 79 men are dead, Morton, the crew, and the legend. Morton's family receives notification that he is missing in action and presumed dead. His wife Harriet and their 3 children are given no details about the mission or the circumstances of loss because the mission was classified. The families of Wahoo's crew receive identical notifications. The Navy issues a public statement acknowledging Wahoo's loss but providing no specifics. The submarine is listed as lost on patrol in enemy waters with no elaboration. The impact on the submarine force is immediate and profound. Mush Morton was not just another successful commander. He was the embodiment of aggressive submarine warfare, the standard against which all other skippers were measured. His loss removes the most visible symbol of American submarine dominance, but his legacy remains. The tactics he pioneered, close-range attacks, down-the-throat shots, penetration of enemy harbors, surface gun actions, become standard doctrine. The command philosophy he demonstrated, putting the executive officer at the periscope to free the captain for tactical decision-making, is adopted by other aggressive commanders, most notably Dick O'Kane on USS Tang. If you have found this deep dive into one of World War II's most aggressive submarine commanders compelling, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Cold War Chronicles, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story of courage and sacrifice. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from, or if you have family who served in submarines during World War II. Every like, every comment, every subscription helps preserve these memories and ensures that more people learn about the heroes who fought in silence. You are part of keeping these stories alive, and we are grateful for that. For 63 years, Wahoo's final resting place remained unknown. The Japanese records indicated she was sunk in La Perouse Strait, but the exact location was never determined. The strait is large, The water is deep enough to make search operations difficult, and Cold War tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union, which controlled the Russian side of the strait, made cooperative search efforts impossible. On July 28, 2006, a team of Russian divers led by Vladimir Kartashev, operating from the research vessel Iskra, located wreckage in La Perouse Strait at coordinates 45°54 and 141°55 E. The wreckage was sitting upright on the bottom in 213 feet of water. The divers photographed the wreck, noting the conning tower structure, hull configuration, and deck gun mount consistent with a Gato-class submarine. The stern was partially buried in sediment, but the forward section was clearly visible. A large hole near the conning tower suggested explosive damage. The Russian team forwarded photographs to the United States Navy. Naval historians compared the images with known characteristics of American submarines lost in the area. The configuration matched USS Wahoo. On October 31, 2006, the Navy officially announced that the wreck had been identified as USS Wahoo, confirming the location where Morton and his crew died 63 years earlier. The wreck is designated a war grave. The families of the crew were notified. No salvage operations were conducted. Wahoo remains on the bottom of La Perouse Strait, her hull still intact, her crew still aboard, marking the point where one of the most aggressive submarine commanders in naval history made his final dive. Morton's final tally is disputed. His patrol reports credited 31 ships sunk totaling approximately 180,000 tons, but post-war analysis using Japanese records reduced that to 19 ships, confirmed sunk totaling approximately 55,000 tons. Either figure places him among the top 5 most successful American submarine commanders of World War II. More importantly, his impact on submarine doctrine and command philosophy influenced every aggressive commander who followed him. Dick O'Kane, Morton's executive officer for 5 patrols, went on to command USS Tang and became the highest-scoring American submarine commander of the war, with 24 confirmed ships sunk before Tang herself was sunk by a circular-running torpedo on her 5th patrol. O'Kane survived as a prisoner of war and received the Medal of Honor. He credited Morton with teaching him everything he knew about aggressive submarine warfare. Eugene Fluckey, commanding officer of USS Barb, adopted Morton's tactics and became legendary for his own aggressive operations, including the only ground combat action conducted by American submarine crew during World War II. Fluckey also received the Medal of Honor and credited Morton as his primary inspiration. The submarine force as a whole shifted from cautious operations to aggressive hunter-killer tactics during 1943, largely due to Morton's example. By war's end, American submarines had sunk over 50% of all Japanese merchant tonnage and approximately 30% of the Japanese Navy, crippling Japan's ability to wage war. Morton's contribution to that success, both through his own sinkings and through the doctrine he established, is incalculable. But Morton's legacy also includes the dark stain of the Survivor massacre during the 3rd Patrol. The incident was never officially investigated, and Morton was never held accountable. Historians still debate whether his actions constituted war crimes or were justified by the brutal nature of Pacific combat. What is not debatable is that Morton ordered his crew to machine gun helpless men in the water, and that order violated the laws of war as understood in 1943 and as codified in subsequent Geneva Conventions. The man was complicated. He was a brilliant tactician who revolutionized submarine warfare. He was a charismatic leader who inspired absolute loyalty in his crew. He was an aggressive commander who achieved results that other skippers could not match, and he was capable of ordering actions that crossed ethical boundaries in ways that cannot be justified, regardless of military necessity. USS Wahoo received 7 battle stars for her World War II service, 1 for each war patrol. She is credited officially with 19 Japanese ships sunk totaling 55,000 tons. Her crew of 79 men including Lieutenant Commander Dudley Morton, are honored on memorial walls at submarine bases throughout the United States. Morton posthumously received 4 Navy Crosses, the nation's second highest award for valor in combat, more than any other submarine commander of the war. This is Cold War Chronicles. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the invisible war fought beneath the Pacific, please subscribe and turn on notifications. We have only just scratched the surface of the secrets buried beneath the waves. Thank you for ensuring that Mush Morton, Dick O'Kane, and the crew of USS Wahoo are not forgotten. Their courage, their sacrifice, and their legacy deserve to be remembered by every generation that benefits from the freedom they fought to preserve.